That morning, I stopped at a gas station on Mercer Avenue after finishing a brutal overnight consulting shift. I looked exhausted, smelled like coffee, and only bought the ticket because the cashier joked that my face looked cursed by bad luck. "Try this," he laughed. "Maybe destiny feels sorry for you today." His name was Reuben Alcott, a Jamaican immigrant in his 60s who always spoke like every sentence carried hidden wisdom. I almost refused the ticket because I rarely gambled. My father used to say lotteries were taxes designed for desperate people. Still, something convinced me to buy it. Maybe exhaustion weakens logic. Maybe fate enjoys disguising itself as coincidence. I forgot about the ticket entirely until lunchtime. At exactly 1:17 p.m., while sitting inside my car overlooking the Chicago River, I scanned the numbers through the state lottery application. The loading wheel spun for 3 seconds. Then the screen flashed gold. Jackpot winner, 80,000. At first I laughed because I assumed the application had malfunctioned. Then my chest tightened. My fingers started trembling so violently that the phone nearly slipped onto the floorboard. I scanned the ticket again. Same result. Again, same result. The world outside suddenly looked unreal. Pedestrians crossed the bridge. Boats moved through the river. Construction workers yelled across the street. Yet everything sounded distant, almost underwater, as if my body had separated itself from reality to survive the shock. I drove back to the gas station immediately. Reuben checked the numbers twice before staring directly into my eyes. "Brother," he whispered, "lock your doors." That sentence should have warned me about everything that followed. Within 2 hours, state officials transferred me into a private financial office, protected by security personnel. Lawyers explained tax structures. Advisors discussed anonymity. Financial managers spoke about investment portfolios, generational wealth, and risk management. I nodded politely while barely hearing them. My thoughts stayed focused on one person, my wife, Serafina Vale Viramont. Even her name sounded expensive. We met 8 years earlier inside a bookstore, cafe after she corrected my pronunciation of a French philosopher. I pretended to understand. She laughed first. I laughed harder. 3 years later, we married beside Lake Geneva beneath white, roses and violin music while her mother cried through the entire ceremony. Serafina transformed every room she entered. She understood fashion, posture, conversation, social pressure, and emotional manipulation better than anyone I had ever known. At the time, I considered those qualities attractive. Looking back now, I realize charm and performance often resemble each other so perfectly that people confuse them for authenticity. Still, I loved her completely. And that afternoon, I wanted to surprise her. Not through a phone call, not through a text message. I wanted a memory. Something cinematic, something impossible to forget. After leaving the financial office, I visited Maison Laurent, one of the most expensive luxury boutiques in Chicago. 6 months earlier, Serafina had paused outside that exact store and stared through the window at a limited Louis Vuitton collection bag. "You know," she whispered back then, "some women would cry over this." I remembered her exact tone, soft, dreamy, hungry, so I bought the bag immediately. The saleswoman wrapped it carefully in gold tissue paper before asking if there was a special occasion. "My wife deserves the world," I answered. She smiled politely. But now I wonder how many men before me said the exact same thing while unknowingly standing at the edge of destruction. Next, I ordered 200 imported pink roses because pink was Serafina's favorite color. She once told me pink represented softness surviving inside cruel environments. At the time, I thought the statement sounded poetic. Years later, I finally understood its real meaning. Pink also hides stains well. Around 4:30 p.m., I contacted a luxury automotive company that specialized in celebrity deliveries. They transported a customized pink Brabus SUV directly to Valthera Medical Logistics headquarters. Employees immediately gathered outside to photograph the vehicle. Phones appeared everywhere. Strangers smiled at me. One man shouted, "Whoever your wife is, she better never leave you." The irony nearly makes me laugh now. I stood beside the SUV wearing my navy suit, holding flowers in one hand and the designer bag in the other while sunlight reflected across the glass towers surrounding us. For a brief moment, I truly believed life had become perfect. Money, marriage, success, freedom, everything finally aligned. Then I noticed something strange. Employees inside the building were not focused on the vehicle anymore. They were focused deeper inside the executive hallway. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked entertained. One woman quietly raised her phone and started recording. A pressure formed inside my chest. I walked toward the glass entrance slowly, hearing the soft echo of my own footsteps against the polished floor. The hallway lights reflected across the windows like strips of white fire. Somewhere nearby, somebody laughed. A man's laughter. Then Serafina's voice answered. "You worry too much, Lucienne," she said softly. Kyle still thinks I'm obsessed with him. My entire body froze. The roses shifted in my grip. For one desperate second, I convinced myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe she was discussing a client. Maybe I misunderstood the context. Human beings are experts at lying to themselves when the truth feels unbearable. Then the male voice answered, "After tonight, you won't need him anymore anyway." Silence followed. Then kissing sounds. Slow. Comfortable. Experienced. Not nervous. Not guilty. Comfortable. And that single detail destroyed me more than anything else. Because comfort means repetition. Comfort means history. Comfort means betrayal did not begin that afternoon. I pushed the office door open slowly. Serafina stood pressed against the wall inside Lucien Duval's arms. Lucien was Valthera's senior operations executive, a married millionaire she previously described as annoying but harmless. His hands rested confidently around her waist while her fingers touched, his chest with intimate familiarity. Neither of them noticed me immediately. That gave me enough time to see the truth clearly. No confusion. No misunderstanding. No manipulation. Just reality. The bouquet slipped from my hands first, then the Louis Vuitton bag. The sound echoed across the marble floor loud, enough for nearby employees to turn toward us. Serafina looked up instantly. I will never forget her expression. Not sadness, not regret. Fear, pure fear. The fear of someone whose performance collapsed before the audience disappeared. Lucien turned around next, releasing her waist immediately. His confidence vanished so fast it almost looked pathetic. "Kyle," Serafina whispered, stepping forward carefully. "This is not what you think." Interesting sentence. Nobody lies faster. Nobody lies faster than a person caught before they finish preparing the story. Serafina took another careful step toward me while Lucien remained frozen beside the office wall, adjusting his suit jacket like fabric could somehow restore his dignity. Around us, employees pretended to work while secretly recording, everything through glass, reflections and partially lowered phones. Outside the building, the crowd near the pink Brabus SUV had grown larger. Some people pressed themselves against the windows trying to understand what was happening inside. Meanwhile, my entire marriage collapsed in complete silence. I stared at Serafina without blinking. 8 years together suddenly replayed through my head differently, as if betrayal had rewritten every memory retroactively. Conversations I once ignored now sounded suspicious. Late business meetings, girls' trips, private phone calls she always took on balconies. Tiny details became evidence once the illusion disappeared. "Kyle," she whispered again, "please let me explain." Interesting word. Explain. Human beings use explanations when they believe reality sounds too ugly to survive by itself. Lucien finally cleared his throat and stepped forward with artificial confidence. "This situation looks inappropriate, but I think we should discuss this privately." I almost laughed. The arrogance fascinated me. He had been sleeping with another man's wife while standing inside the office funded by employees who respected him, yet he still spoke like an executive controlling a meeting agenda. I looked directly at him for the first time. Lucien Duval was the type of man magazines described as powerful. Expensive haircut, tailored navy suit, perfect posture, controlled voice. Men like Lucien survive by understanding appearances better than morality. They know confidence intimidates people long enough to avoid consequences, but confidence disappears quickly once shame enters the room. "You should move your hand away from her," I said quietly. Lucien immediately released Serafina's waist. That detail mattered. Strong men challenge other men. Cowards calculate risks. And Lucien had already realized the situation was becoming dangerous socially, financially, and publicly. Serafina suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Please," she whispered desperately. "You're misunderstanding this." Another fascinating sentence, because no honest person says you're misunderstanding while standing inches away from another man's mouth. I slowly looked down at her hand, touching me. Then I removed it carefully. That movement hurt her more than shouting ever could. For years, physical affection had been our language. Forehead kisses before work, fingers touching inside restaurants, hands resting together during flights. We were the couple people envied publicly. Yet standing there inside Valthera headquarters, I realized something terrifying. Some couples perform intimacy professionally. The audience confuses consistency with sincerity. Outside, somebody knocked against the glass excitedly while filming us. Lucien noticed immediately. His face changed color. That was the moment he finally understood the real danger. Not morality, exposure. Executives survive scandals differently than ordinary people. Affairs destroy reputations. Reputations destroy investor confidence. Investor panic destroys money. And money controls everything around powerful men. We need security, Lucien muttered. I smiled coldly. Now you believe in consequences? His jaw tightened. Good. For the first time since entering the building, somebody besides me felt uncomfortable. Serafina looked between us rapidly, like her brain was trying to calculate which version of reality still offered survival. People often misunderstand manipulation. Manipulators are not always evil geniuses. Most are simply adaptive. They change emotions depending on circumstances. Victim when cornered, romantic when needed, cruel when safe. Serafina possessed that talent naturally. Tears suddenly formed in her eyes. Perfect timing. If you would just listen... Did you love him? I interrupted calmly. The question shocked her. Because emotional people expect screaming. Silence terrifies them more. Lucien looked toward the hallway nervously. Employees had completely stopped pretending to work. Several stood openly watching now. One woman covered her mouth dramatically, while another continued recording, without shame. Corporate buildings are strange ecosystems. People act professional until real human disaster appears. Then everybody becomes an audience. Kyle, Serafina whispered, please don't do this here. That sentence confirmed everything. Not denial, not outrage. Damage control. I glanced toward the floor where the roses and Louis Vuitton bag rested beside. Scattered petals. The sight almost made me sick. 30 minutes earlier, those gifts represented love. Now they looked embarrassing. Expensive evidence of stupidity. A security guard finally approached from the lobby. Young, nervous, confused. Sir, he said carefully, is everything all right here? Before anyone answered, a woman outside shouted loudly enough for everybody inside to hear. He bought her the pink truck. The crowd reacted immediately. Phones lifted higher. People started filming the Brabus SUV, again before turning their cameras back toward us. Lucien's face hardened. He finally understood how catastrophic this looked publicly. Millionaire executive caught with employee's wife moments. Before she receives luxury gifts outside corporate headquarters. Disaster. Pure disaster. Then Serafina made the biggest mistake of her life. She looked at the SUV. Not at me. Not at our marriage. The vehicle. Her eyes widened with genuine excitement, before she quickly tried hiding the reaction. Too late. I saw it. And once you see greed clearly, you can never unsee it again. For years, I thought Serafina wanted emotional security. Standing there, I realized she simply wanted upgraded luxury. And suddenly every expensive dinner, every social climbing friendship, every strategic compliment she gave wealthy people made perfect sense. Lucien noticed her reaction too. That terrified him more than me, because men like Lucien understand women like Serafina very well. They know loyalty attached to luxury eventually follows the highest bidder. A terrible silence filled the office. Then my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered automatically without breaking eye contact with either of them. Mr. Viermont? A professional female voice said. This is Celestine Marr from Illinois Lottery Financial Services. We finalized the first transfer authorization for your winnings. Congratulations again on the $80 million. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Serafina's face drained completely. Lucien stared directly at me. The employees nearby looked ready to explode, and suddenly I understood something important. The affair hurt, but the timing transformed betrayal into humiliation, because fate had allowed them to reveal themselves before touching a single dollar. And honestly, that might have saved my life. I ended the call slowly while the office remained silent. Even the crowd outside seemed quieter now, as if $80 million had changed the air around us. Serafina looked at me differently after hearing the number. Not lovingly, Not regretfully. Strategically. That expression hurt more than the cheating itself because it confirmed deepest fear. She was already recalculating. Some people process heartbreak emotionally. Others process opportunity mathematically. And wife had always been exceptional with numbers. Lucian stepped away from her. Before the phone call, he believed he controlled the situation. Now he understood he had accidentally betrayed a man who had become richer than executives inside the building. Okay, Lucien Duval spent his entire adult life mastering rooms. You could see it in the way he stood, the way he measured silence before speaking, the way people unconsciously shifted their posture when he entered conversations. Men like Lucien survive because they understand social gravity. Confidence pulls weaker personalities toward them naturally. But standing inside that executive hallway, watching him slowly realize I had just become worth $80 million, I witnessed something rare. His confidence cracked. Not publicly, not dramatically. Subtle cracks, tiny fractures around the eyes, longer pauses between breaths, a delayed response time. Powerful people panic quietly. Serafina noticed it too, and suddenly her body language changed completely. That was the moment I truly understood her. Before the lottery phone call, she stood close to Lucien instinctively. Her shoulders angled toward him. Her posture felt connected to his energy. But after hearing the number, she shifted unconsciously back toward me. Not enough for ordinary people to notice. But heartbreak sharpens observation. Every movement becomes evidence. "Cale," she whispered carefully, "can we please go home and talk privately?" Home. Interesting choice of word. Because 20 minutes earlier, she was pressed against another man. Inside a corporate office without worrying about privacy at all. I stared at her silently. Outside the building, the crowd kept growing around the pink Brabus SUV. Somebody had apparently posted the scene online because random pedestrians now stopped specifically to record videos. Through the glass entrance, Chicago moves quickly when drama appears beside wealth. The security guard looked overwhelmed. Employees pretended not to stare while staring directly at us. Lucien finally adjusted his cufflinks and attempted regaining authority. "I think everybody here is emotionally overwhelmed," he announced calmly. "This conversation should continue elsewhere." Nobody moved. Nobody obeyed. Because authority only works when people still respect you, and respect disappears instantly once hypocrisy becomes public. A woman near the accounting offices suddenly muttered, "Oh my God," while looking at her phone screen. Seconds later, several employees checked their own devices simultaneously. Then I heard it. My own voice, echoing from somebody's phone speaker. The video had already spread online. The flowers falling, Serafina panicking, the lottery phone call, everything. Lucien closed his eyes briefly. He understood modern humiliation perfectly. Scandals no longer stay inside buildings. They become content. I slowly bent down and picked up the Louis Vuitton bag from the marble floor. The roses remained scattered beside my shoes like evidence from a crime scene. Serafina watched me carefully, probably hoping the gesture meant reconciliation. Instead, I walked directly toward Lucien. The hallway became completely silent. Even the elevators sounded louder. Lucien straightened instinctively as I stopped inches away from him. Up close, he smelled like expensive cologne and stress. Then I handed him the bag. Confusion crossed his face. "What is this?" he asked cautiously. I smiled without warmth. "Since you were enjoying my wife already," I said quietly, "you might as well finance her too." Several employees gasped immediately. Serafina looked horrified. Lucien didn't touch the bag. Good decision, because accepting luxury gifts from another man during an affair might have become the most humiliating photograph of his career. "You're angry," Serafina whispered desperately. "You're saying things you don't mean." That sentence almost made me laugh. People love calling honesty anger once truth becomes uncomfortable. I looked directly at her wedding ring. Platinum. Oval diamond, custom designed in Geneva. I spent 8 months saving for it before proposing beside Lake Michigan during winter snowfall. At the time, I believed sacrifice strengthened love. Now I realize sacrifice only impresses people capable of appreciating loyalty. Serafina slowly removed the ring from her finger. Not dramatically, carefully, as if she feared sudden movements might destroy whatever chance still existed. Then she held it toward me. Employees nearby looked completely frozen now. The hallway no longer felt like an office. It felt like theater. Real pain always attracts audiences, because people secretly compare other tragedies to their own lives. "I made mistakes," Serafina whispered, "but I love you." There it was. The oldest emergency sentence in human history. I love you. Fascinating phrase. People use it before betrayal, during betrayal, after betrayal. Some even use it while destroying someone completely. I stared at the ring in her hand without touching it. Then I asked the question that truly mattered. "When were you going to tell me?" Silence. Her eyes shifted away instantly, and that hesitation answered everything. Because honest people answer painful questions immediately. Liars search for safe versions first. Lucian suddenly interrupted. "Kyle, this situation became emotional long before today. Nobody intended to hurt you." I looked at him slowly. Nobody intended to hurt me? He swallowed visibly but continued anyway. "You and Serafina were already struggling." That statement shocked me, not because it was true, but because they discussed my marriage, together deeply enough for him to weaponize private information. That realization hurt differently. Affairs are terrible. Shared intimacy is worse. Somewhere outside, police sirens echoed faintly through downtown traffic while reporters began arriving near the SUV. Apparently, local social media pages had already reposted clips from inside the building. The internet transforms humiliation into entertainment faster than human beings. Emotionally processed trauma. A young intern accidentally dropped her coffee while staring at us. Nobody reacted. Everybody remained focused on the disaster unfolding inside the executive hallway. Then Serafina made another mistake. She touched my chest softly. Not romantically, strategically. "You know me," she whispered. "You know my heart." Wrong. That was the entire problem. I thought I knew her. But the woman standing before me looked unfamiliar now, almost professionally manufactured. Her tears appeared beautiful instead of messy. Her voice remained controlled despite panic. Even heartbreak itself seemed curated carefully for maximum sympathy. Suddenly, I remembered something my grandfather once told me as a child. Never trust people who stay elegant while destroying others. At the time, I thought he sounded bitter. Now I finally understood. Real guilt disorganizes people. Real shame breaks composure. But Serafina still looked beautiful, even during collapse, especially during collapse. That terrified me, because it meant manipulation had become instinctive for her. I stepped backwards slowly, creating distance between us for the first time since our wedding day. The movement destroyed her emotionally more than screaming ever could. "Kyle," she whispered, voice trembling now, "please don't leave like this." I looked around the hallway one final time. The employees, the phones, the scattered flowers, Lucian standing silently beside the office wall, the woman I once planned to build children, and memories with staring at me like survival depended on my next sentence. Then I finally understood something important. Winning $80 million did not ruin my marriage. It saved me from spending the rest of my life funding a performance disguised as love. And honestly, that realization felt more valuable than the money itself. I removed my wedding ring slowly. The metal felt strangely cold against my skin. Serafina's breathing became uneven immediately, because deep down, manipulators always know the exact second control disappears forever. Then I placed the ring gently inside the Louis Vuitton bag still hanging from Lucian's frozen hand, and walked away without looking back once. Outside, cameras flashed everywhere. But for the first time all day, I no longer cared who was watching anymore. The strange thing about public humiliation is that it follows you home before you arrive there yourself. By the time I reached my penthouse overlooking the Chicago River, clips from Valthera Medical Logistics had already spread across social media pages, gossip accounts, corporate forums, and local news channels. Somebody added dramatic music behind the footage of the flowers falling. Another account zoomed into Serafina's, faced the exact moment the lottery phone call revealed. The $80 million. Millions of strangers suddenly had opinions about my marriage. Some supported me, some mocked me. Others treated my pain like entertainment designed for their evening commute. That is the modern world. Human suffering becomes content faster than healing becomes possible. I poured myself a glass of water inside the kitchen but never drank it. My hands still trembled slightly from adrenaline and emotional shock. Outside the windows, Chicago glowed beneath the darkening sky like a machine powered entirely by ambition and loneliness. For years, Serafina loved this view. Cities are honest, she once told me while standing barefoot beside the glass. Everybody admits they want more. At the time, I considered that statement intelligent. Now I understood it differently. Ambition without morality eventually consumes everything around it. My phone vibrated continuously across the marble counter. Friends, co-workers, unknown numbers, journalists. I ignored all of them. Then another notification appeared. Serafina. 3 words only. Please come home. Interesting sentence. Not please forgive me. Not please let me explain. Home. Because people facing collapse instinctively search for familiar territory. Manipulators especially depend on environments where emotional habits still exist. She understood the penthouse contained memories. Routines, smells, lighting, photographs. Shared laughter, vacations, anniversaries, late-night conversations, apologies, intimacy. She hoped nostalgia would weaken logic. Unfortunately for her, betrayal permanently changes how memory feels. At 8:42 p.m., the elevator doors opened quietly behind me. Serafina entered the penthouse, slowly wearing the same cream-colored outfit from earlier. Her mascara had faded slightly now, but somehow she still looked composed enough for magazine covers. Some people remain aesthetically beautiful even while emotionally destroying lives. She stopped near the kitchen island. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then she finally whispered, "You blocked my number." I nodded once. "You embarrassed me publicly," she continued softly. That sentence fascinated me so deeply I almost smiled. Not I hurt you, not I betrayed you. I embarrassed her publicly. Victimhood had already returned naturally. I leaned against the counter carefully. "You cheated publicly." Her eyes filled with tears immediately. "I never wanted this to happen." Another lie. Affairs require hundreds of decisions. Text messages, meetings, excuses, deleted conversations, private jokes, secret touches. Nobody accidentally builds betrayal over time. Serafina stepped closer carefully. "You don't understand what Lucian is like." "There it is," I interrupted quietly. "What?" "The transfer of blame." Her face tightened instantly. People hate when manipulation gets identified aloud because exposure weakens emotional control. "He pursued me aggressively," she whispered. "And you resisted by kissing him inside his office?" Silence. Real silence this time, the kind that appears when excuses finally collapse completely. I walked toward the massive windows overlooking downtown while speaking calmly. "You know what hurts most?" She didn't answer. "It's not even the cheating anymore." Her breathing slowed behind me. "It's realizing you were already calculating outcomes before getting caught." "That's not true." I turned toward her immediately. "Then why did your eyes light up when you saw the Brabus outside?" The question hit perfectly. "Because guilt reacts strongest to accuracy." She looked away instantly, exactly like earlier, and suddenly everything connected. The luxury bags, the networking dinners, the obsession with status, the social media performances, the subtle disappointment whenever I prioritized stability over extravagance. I had mistaken material hunger for ambition. Huge difference. "Did you ever actually love me?" I asked quietly. Her answer arrived too fast. "Of course I did." Did. Past tense. Interesting. She realized the mistake immediately afterward, but it was too late. Truth escapes accidentally when emotions panic. I laughed softly for the first time all day. Not happily, just tired. "You know what's terrifying?" I said. "If I never won the lottery today, you probably would have continued pretending forever." "That's not fair." "No," I replied calmly. "Fair would have been honesty before betrayal." Serafina's tears finally became genuine then, because reality had shifted permanently, not emotionally, financially, strategically, psychologically. Everything changed once she realized reconciliation. No longer guaranteed access to my future. And for the first time since we met, she looked truly afraid of losing control. Outside the penthouse windows, helicopters moved across the skyline while traffic lights reflected against the river below. Somewhere inside the city, strangers still discussed us online like fictional characters instead of real people. Then Serafina asked the question she probably rehearsed during the elevator ride upstairs. "What happens now?" Simple question. Complicated answer. I stared at her for several seconds before responding. "Tomorrow morning, my legal team begins separation procedures." Her face drained completely. "You're serious?" I almost laughed again. The astonishing thing about betrayal is how shocked cheaters become once consequences arrive. Yes, I answered quietly. I'm serious. She walked closer desperately. We can fix this. No, I replied. You can survive this. Different thing. That sentence broke her emotionally harder than anything else I had said all day, because survival means the relationship already died. For several seconds, she simply cried silently while standing beneath the soft kitchen lights where we once cooked pasta together at midnight after wine tastings downtown. Memory transforms ordinary locations into emotional graveyards after heartbreak. Then she whispered something I will never forget. I didn't think you'd leave. Honest. Finally. Brutally honest. Not because she regretted betrayal, because she miscalculated tolerance. That realization healed something inside me instantly. You cannot rebuild trust with someone who considered your loyalty permanent, regardless of pain inflicted. I walked toward the hallway closet and removed a small, black velvet box from the top shelf. Inside rested the second surprise I planned giving her that afternoon, a pair of diamond earrings custom designed in Monaco. Serafina stared at them silently, then at me, then back at the jewelry. I placed the box gently on the counter between us. For a few hours today, I said calmly, I truly believe making you happy was the greatest moment of my life. Her tears fell harder immediately. But honestly, I continued quietly, discovering the truth before giving you everything was probably the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. The penthouse became completely silent. No manipulation, no excuses, no performances left, just reality standing naked between two people who suddenly understood each other perfectly for the very first time. Then I opened the front door slowly, and Serafina Vale-Viramont finally realized the $80 million lottery ticket was never the reason our marriage ended. It simply revealed the exact price she was willing to betray it for.